Hello, come on in to All Things Odd. We are back, and I'm going to have, first of all, we wanted to thank people for voting for us because we did get a great award for the Community Choice Awards for Fort Collins. So we wanted to thank people for sure for voting for us and also for sending us your loved ones. But with that, we are going to talk real quickly about the YouTube channel, and I'll have Dr. Galloway.
Yes, so if you go to our YouTube, you can subscribe so that you get notifications when we have a new episode. And if we have, weeks that we're not doing an episode or over the holidays or whatever, you can go here and just watch the different topics. So the thumbnail images are more fun on here. So I like to look at the pictures that Natalie came up with.
Yeah, before Siblings in Your Ears is kind of funny. I forgot what we talked about on that one. But before we were doing some fun thumbnails here, we had to actually, I'm just going to scroll down here, do other photos that we had to do. So Rebecca, you're lucky that we didn't have to do these with you.
That's funny. Yeah, it was like a weekly photo shoot for that.
So I thought it would be kind of fun to kind of take a look at these. All right. So follow us, subscribe to our YouTube channel. We are getting some great followers. So thank you guys so much. With that, we came up with an idea for our show today that we wanted to cover, and it's all surrounding sound. And so I'm going to kind of kick us off a little bit, and then we'll kind of pass it around. But we're going to talk about some different sound stories that has kind of, I guess, graced our, being able to be an audiologist. And it kind of gave us some different things that we can kind of talk about regarding sound. So for me, we actually had a patient that came in this week, and she was coming in to get ear impressions for sleep plugs. And as our practice, we always, since we do sound sensitivity here, I always like to talk to them. And Rebecca was really good. She came over and she's like, I think maybe you should kind of peek in on this one because she's asking for sleep plugs. And we just want to rule out that she doesn't have any sound sensitivity, or if there would be any sound sensitivity issues by using sleep plugs. And so she was coming in because she started to notice that she wasn't able to fall asleep. She, first of all, shared that she was a light sleeper, and that she was having a hard time with her husband just kind of wrestling around in the bed, just moving around. But then also they had their dog in a crate in the bedroom as well. And so she was having some problems with just being able to fall asleep, and it was kind of getting worse. She initially started off just having some sounds kind of out in the room, like from a speaker. And then she moved the sounds into her ears and started to wear these like earbuds that would deliver the sounds to her while she slept. And that wasn't enough. So she came in to try to get some custom pieces that went on her earbuds to see if she was able to, just see if it would help even more. And so, again, having these conversations kind of led me down the path of explaining how the brain works and why we don't necessarily want to do sound plugs for people. But instead, I had some other ideas. And so Rebecca thought it was a kind of a really cool topic to talk about. So I'm going to kind of talk about what I talked about with this woman and gave her some tips that she could use at home, because honestly, that was the only time that she was using earplugs or earbuds. And she just seemed to start to go on this path of having to use them more often, right? And so first of all, I explained that when I used to live in Seattle and I had my first child, my son, who's now in college, but when he was going to bed, we lived in an older house and there was a lot of creaky floors. And being our firstborn, we rocked him to sleep and gently put him down in the crib and tried to tiptoe outside so that he wouldn't wake up. And of course, he would wake up, so that we'd go back in and rock him to sleep. So it would take hours to get him to sleep, right? So, of course, the easiest option would be, you know what, flick on a sound machine. When we walk out, he won't hear us walk out. It'll be fine. But because in Seattle, I was doing the same thing as I was doing here, working with tinnitus and sound sensitivity patients, I knew that if I trained my newborn son to only be able to fall asleep with the sound machine on, then if we were anywhere and I forgot his sound machine, we would be like, it would be very difficult for us to get him to fall asleep, right? No hotels, nothing. Like we would literally have to find a sound machine to play something from our phone. So I decided it as an audiologist that worked with sound sensitivity patients at the time that I wasn't going to use a sound machine with my son, nor use like a bathroom fan or anything like that, and just suck it up. So we rocked him to sleep, we put him down, and then the funny thing was, like, my husband and I would get out of his room, and then we jump from seam to seam all the way down our old wooden floor, so that we wouldn't wake him up. Sometimes he would, sometimes he wouldn't, but it did take a little bit longer to train him to fall asleep, even to sound. But I think that for us, it worked out really, really well. And so I shared with her that experience and talked about how the brain can get used to different things, right? If you train it to. And this is what I do in sound therapy is I retrain the brain. And so with that, I had mentioned some tips that she could try at home first. And again, this was this week. So I said, if it's not working, I can help you out a little bit further. But because it only occurs when she goes to sleep, I suggested that she go back to using sounds, not at the level of her ears, but further away. Okay. With no meaning and no pattern. So nothing that's modulated, nothing that her brain would be able to pick up on, like an owl hooting every 10 seconds or a frog croaking. Sometimes even waves crashing on an ocean or a heartbeat is too much of a pattern for some people. So make sure she tries to look for something that doesn't have any meaning or any patterns. Now it's easy because there's lots of different apps that you can use with sounds, as well as you can mix sounds together. So suggested that. And then I also made sure, number two, that none of the sounds were ever annoying to her. So if she was using a sound over and over and it became annoying that night, then to pick something else, because we don't want to actually have certain things in the brain pick up the pattern, but then also create a negative association with it. And so anytime that there was anything annoying, I asked her to switch to a different sound. The third thing I asked her to do was to not mask anything completely. So don't turn the sounds up so loud that she doesn't hear her dog in her crate or her husband kind of wrestling around. She still needs to be able to hear that in order for her brain to have some desensitization or habituation occur. So I had her do that. And then the last thing was really, again, reiterating that she should try to get these sounds not near her ears, but at least away, or not fully covering it so that she can't hear anything else, right? And so we had recommended, I think Acoustic Sheep has a headband that has speakers in it, that it's like a terry cloth headband. So it's very light. It won't cover the ears completely. And then I also suggested maybe slipping a speaker into her pillow so that it doesn't bother her husband, or just, again, going back to playing something from far away and not at the level of the ears. So we're going to see how she does. But again, just with sounds, we're talking about sound stories, but just with sound sensitivity and sleep plugs, always make sure that you're talking to your audiologist. If you're a consumer or a patient, talking to your audiologist about why you need this and what are you doing. And if you're an audiologist and you're listening to this and watching it, then please consider asking more questions rather than just taking the ear impressions and just giving them the sleep plugs. Like, walk them through, what do they need it for? And is it really something that we need to help out this way? Or are we looking at more sound sensitivity issues down the line? So I was really glad that Rebecca picked up on that when we saw the patient, and she came and grabbed me so I could kind of talk to the patient and educate her a little bit more. And the patient was very thankful, and she's going to try some of these things. And it's something that we wanted to point out when we're talking about sound in the ears, to also be aware of that. So that sound sensitivity, that's my sound story, and I'm sticking to it. So I'm going to pass it over to Dr. Galloway, and she'll talk about some of what sounds do with hearing loss and what she's seen in her practice.
Yes. Working with cochlear implant patients for the last however many years, it's funny because you kind of hear some of the same stories from different patients. So one of the stories that has struck me, because I just had not considered it before, is that many of our patients that wear cochlear implants or have a significant amount of hearing loss, when water is running in the sink, they can't hear it. And so, a lot of times you're running the water to fill the pot or whatever, and then you hear it like, oh, I got to turn the water off. If you didn't hear the water running, many of our patients have overflowed their sinks, and it's been like a habitual problem even. I learned that there are special sinks that will not overflow. And one of our patients had some sort of like moisture sensor like near the sink because it had happened before. And so that's one thing that hearing it from more than 2 patients, I'm like, that's very interesting because I would not have thought of it as a hearing person, that I wouldn't be able to hear the water, or that is really triggering me to turn it off sometimes. But I thought that was very interesting. And then we have one cochlear implant patient who she gives us a lot of feedback. And so she's been able to be really descriptive and, all the things she's experiencing and hearing. And she's had an interesting hearing history. So she came in one day and she said, I just can't believe how different rain sounds between my car, the roof of my car versus the roof of my house versus, someplace else. The water sounds very different, metal roof versus whatever. And then she told us that when she heard hail, she was, completely surprised and scared. And she had no idea how loud it was. And she was describing kind of hearing hail on her car for the first time. And to be able to know that it's hailing because you heard it, rather than saw it. So those were a couple of stories that I wanted to share from cochlear implant patients. We get to hear a lot of fun stories every day. I feel like that's one of the best parts of our job, is that we get to kind of know people and they feel comfortable sharing things. But those were some that kind of stuck out with our implant patients.
Yeah, awesome. All right. So those are Dr. Galloway's sound stories. And then the topic came up of favorite sounds. So Rebecca and Dr. Galloway were talking about favorite sounds. I was like, what? What do you mean favorite sound? And they're like, did you ever think about your favorite sound? I'm like, I have one on the top of my head that I can think of. And it was me just growing up and, going to camps and everything and being outside. And it's the ocean crash. It's waves crashing on an ocean like that. I could sit outside forever listening to that, but that's because I grew up in Hawaii. Right. And so they were talking to me about that, but that's like the only thing that I can think of. But Rebecca had done some research to talk a little bit more about favorite sounds. And so I'm going to hand the mic over to her and she can talk a little bit more about that.
Yeah. It was something that we did actually. One of the professors at UNC while I was studying on campus asked us all what our different favorite sounds were. I had a classmate say that she loves to hear her cat purr, and other sounds were like fire crackling. I personally love hearing rain come down on a tin roof. I had like a tin awning outside my bedroom growing up. So hearing the rain kind of come down, which is a little rare in Southern California. So when it happens, it's a big treat. So that's one of my favorite sounds. One of the other ones was an elk bugle, which I didn't know till I moved to Colorado. And then I'll let Dr. Galloway mention her favorite sound real quick, which it was really unique.
Yeah. And actually the only reason I have been to more than one professional event where that's been like the icebreaker topic, or you open what's your name, where do you work, and what's your favorite sound. So I guess I've spent a little bit of time thinking about sounds that I really like. But in Colorado there's a lot of aspen trees, and there's a specific kind of aspen called the quaking aspen, and we have one in my backyard pretty much right up against my house. It's too close to the house, but when the wind blows and it blows through it, it almost sounds like a rain stick. Like it's this really pretty sound. And if you look at the leaves, they're kind of small and round, and they like quake back and forth like this. That's what makes the sound. So if you Google quaking aspen, that it's a different sound, but that's definitely a favorite. And you talking about childhood sounds, growing up in Missouri, we had a screened-in porch and lots of summer thunderstorms. So we had a porch with a roof, and then it had screen all around the sides. And then we also had a porch swing out there. So me and my sister would go out and swing on the porch swing during the thunderstorms. And my husband is from Missouri as well, so he also loves a good summer thunderstorm. So we are known to like run out to the garage and open the door to the backyard and like sit in lawn chairs, like just to be from Missouri, I guess, because we like that summer Midwestern rainstorm.
I love that. And that's another one that made the list. I kind of Googled the top 50 sounds, and thunderstorms were on there for sure, as well as crackling bacon for some who enjoy their breakfast foods as well. But it also kind of got us wondering, why do we love our favorite sounds, or what's actually happening? So I wanted to look at some of like the immediate effects on our nervous system. And the biggest one that we probably all recognize initially is mood enhancement. So listening to your favorite sounds could just be sounds. It could be music. That essentially releases that neurotransmitter dopamine, which is our pleasure and reward transmitter, and it makes us very happy. So it enhances our mood. And there's definitely some other things that we get. We know that music and certain sounds can release memory. So that's kind of unique. And then there's always emotional responses that come from listening to certain sounds or certain, I like to say, musical scores in movies are a big one. We always add music to kind of enhance the emotion that the director is trying to go for. And I think the biggest one that maybe we don't think about is stress reduction. So when we're actually listening to sounds that we really, really enjoy, whether it's just a sound like quaking aspens or a song, it actually reduces that sympathetic nervous system, that flight or flight response, and it increases our parasympathetic, that rest and digest response. And that tends to lead to reduced heart rate, reduce blood pressure, reduce respiratory rate. So if you can think in some situations where if you go get a massage or a yoga class, those are kind of all situations that utilize sound. Some of them even use the singing bowls to kind of create that really, really stress releasing environment through the integration of that kind of calming sound. So I thought that was just kind of a fun way to kind of wrap up our show and maybe pose the question to our watchers and listeners. And what is your favorite sound? Have you thought about it? And kind of check it out or spend more time listening to your favorite soundscapes.
Yeah, I love that. Yeah. So many things that you said, like even with my sound sensitivity patients too, trying to find something that can relax them. That makes a lot of sense. Or something familiar. When I work with music therapy, it's picking out something that you like to listen to because you're able to listen to it a little bit louder, and you can enjoy it. The other thing that when you shared, what brought up my mind was I was visiting LA and I took my daughter to I think it was the Warner Brothers studios, and they did this thing where they showed you how they took all the sound out of a movie and they played the clip for you and they added a few things in. So it was sound effects, but then the last thing was like the music behind it and how it all came together. And it was super interesting. I wish I could have sat there and videoed it because I would have shared it here. But at the same time, I was trying to be respectful. But it was really interesting how sound added to the movies and how they added different layers of it and how it just changed your emotions every single time they added a layer back into it. So I thought that was really kind of interesting. So I would agree. I would say if you're watching this, whatever platform you're watching it on, Facebook, YouTube, my LinkedIn, or even if we can get it up on Instagram. Instagram's been giving us a little bit of trouble with our shows lately. But share your favorite sounds. I think that would be really kind of cool to learn a little bit more about our community and who tunes in and what their favorite sounds are. So good call.
Ask other people as an icebreaker. Because once you think about it, maybe you can consider more, the sounds that you really like. So
yeah, love it. All right. Well, with that, we are closing out our show today, but we will be back, I think, next week. Just kind of stay tuned. And we'll be back with a new episode soon. All right. We'll see you guys then.
Thank
Bye.
you.